Imagine this. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings. This is your house. But is it your home? Hi, I'm Nelson DeMello, and join me as we try to find our home beyond our borders.
I don't know. I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's a good take.
You know, I spend a lot of time thinking about heretics, thinking about heresies, trying to see, okay, how can I actually break this down? How can I put this to bed, lay it to rest? You know what I mean? But I never really thought about myself in the theologies that might be a little shady on my own, you know? I have a few, actually. We're going to go through a few of them. But two that I find out of Scripture, and you be the judge. You tell me, okay? You tell me if this is heresy or not. I'll read the verse first, right? So Isaiah 5:20, okay, it says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." The idea is, right, you're just mixing and matching what's good and what's bad. Cool. This tends to then, you start thinking, oh, that sounds like moral relativism. Now, I don't know if you've heard me talk about this subject and me specifically, explicitly say that morals are subjective, even God's. Well, yeah, so here's the deal. Let me try to explain, not trying to defend myself necessarily, but to explain myself, and then you guys be the judge, right? It's not that God's laws are subjective. It's that it's kind of like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like if someone doesn't believe and looks at the statutes of God, they can decide whether that's good or not for them. But God has decided objectively what is good and bad. But I've also changed the definition of, you know, what God wants. And it's not necessarily, you know, be a good person, be a bad person, which, well, I think that, you know, eliminates that layer, because I don't think that's what God wants at all. He just wants, you know, obedience. He just wants a people that cling to him.
Harley, not right now. Stop it.
And so by that is where I infer this idea of destruction and, let's say, virtue, you know. Like, is this good for me? Not, is this good? Is this good for me, or is this bad for me? Right? And God defines what's bad and good for you, and to the point of human experience, right? So this is what's good and bad for all people of all time, of all ethnicities, all two genders. Anyways, I don't know why I had to. Yeah, well, we know why. I don't know. Anyways. Oh my God, dude, what did I just do? All right. So that's kind of my thing. Am I just semantically changing, you know, good and bad, and we all have the same basic idea? Or am I really trying to relativize what's in the Bible? Well, actually, you know, maybe. I mean, again, you decide. Me saying that I think morals are subjective, but God's plan of obedience and what's good for us is objectively true. Am I conflating good and evil and good? I don't know. The next thing is 2 Peter 3:3 and 4. That was confusing. Chapter 3, verse 3 and 4. It says, "Knowing this, first of all, that scoffers will come in the last days of scoffing, following their own sinful desires. They will say, 'Where is the promise of his coming?' For ever since the fathers fell asleep, all things are continuing as they were from the beginning of creation." Now, I'm not saying that Jesus ain't coming, but I really am tired of this, you know, the end is near stuff. I think it's coming. And here's also the other thing. When, you know, like, it's because of my, I guess, interpretation, but let's see if this is kind of borderline, you know, you tell me again. So, Jesus says that it'll come like a thief in the night. Yeah, he says that there's going to be growing pains, but those are just signs of what is to come, right? So the growing pains, war, famine, earthquakes, natural disasters, all these things. That is not the end. That is just like a reminder almost. Like, hey, there is an end to come. These are just reminders, right? I actually think that it's going to be so subtle because, again, thief in the night means you don't even notice until it's gone. You don't even notice until you're in it. You know what I mean? And for that, it's got to be subtle. So when you see the world going, all hell breaking loose, and they're like, the world's going to end. I don't think so. Because again, if it comes as a thief of the night, I'm thinking during a peacetime or something, people are just going to disappear. You know what I mean? Because, if it's, again, thief in the night and then growing pains, to me, we have hundreds of years of future history to unfold. You know what I mean? Like, I'm imagining, I don't know, like world peace and everyone's eating and, because we figure out the infrastructure to get food everywhere. Because the crisis isn't making more food, right? It's getting food to places fast enough. And, yeah.
Wait, hold up. If at any point in this you said, hey, I never thought about it like that, please subscribe. What are you doing, man? I'm trying to pay my bills. Okay, anyways, let's get back to the serious stuff. All right, see it.
So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe those two aren't real heresies. Now, these other two that I'm going to talk about, I don't know if I have Bible to deny or to agree with. Like vague, I remember vague things about this one. So extra biblically, like outside of the Bible, I heard this Roman historian talk about how ancient Romans were so obsessed with their lineage and their heritage, in the sense of like, okay, so like Caesar Augustus Caesar, whatever the case is, he was betrayed by a man, right? His best friend. Et tu, Brute, all that. Okay, cool. So this man had a lineage of people who hated and killed tyrants. And this man, Brutus, let's call him Brutus, I don't even know. So that's the thing. I don't know if that's his real name or that's his name just in the play, whatever the case is. But it's the story goes that he was like, I'm not going to do, he's like my best friend. But then his other friends reminded him of like who he was and his lineage. And then he, I don't know, prayed to his ancestors or something and realized like, oh yeah, this is what I must do. And he killed him. And so, or it was like a instinctual thing. I don't know. Like, I don't know the story, obviously, as you can tell. But the idea is that lineages have a strong hold and a strong power. Now, I think this goes with like generational curses, if you believe in that, epigenetics, if you believe in that. This idea that like personality is passed down, and that's kind of obvious, right? Like we all have remnants of our parents, and they have remnants of their parents, and they have remnants of their parents. And so if A plus B equals C and A plus D equals C, then B and D, no, that's not right. It's something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like then B and D equals C as well. Idea is like if your great grandfather is like your father, if your great grandfather is like your grandfather, and going down, right, and you're like your father, then that means you're like your grandfather. So you carry this lineage with you, and I think that goes into like African, what do you call it? Epistemology? No, that's not right. Is it? Metaphysics? Roman whatever it would be called. Yeah, man, I don't like words, you know what I mean? But just how they believe in the metaphysical realities is, yeah, Greeks do it, Romans do it, Africans do it. And it just seems like Americans, especially in the modern age, we are frozen in time. Like I was thinking about this of, like, if you show scenes of like World War II to someone in Gen Z, and then you show them scenes of Lord of the Rings, like they're both equally true. You know what I mean? If you told them like 3000 BC, the warlocks of Merlot and the and the elves of Zinfandel fought each other, and out of that rose the Egyptian Empire. Yes, I used wines. That's how ridiculous you could, tell a story. They would say, yeah, probably. And then you show them World War II and you're like, yeah, yes. Okay. You know what I mean? And because of that, because it's like existence is only real for how long they've been born, we kind of cut off everything that's been alive before us. And we don't even think about, we don't have any dimension of how kind of history unfolds. Like that idea that history does unfold, So things in the making, 100 years ago, we're seeing the fruit of it now, kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like that idea is so alien to this generation, maybe even millennials. I don't know how far this goes. Maybe this is like every generation has this problem where they can't look backwards. I mean, this is also the idea of hard times make strong men make fat men make weak men start wars, or whatever the case is. This idea that, when you go through hard times, you become a strong guy, and then with society being strong, then you prosper, and with prosper, you have kids that live in that, and then they're weak, and then, they, anyways. So it's just like we don't have dimension of like time before us, which is insane. Because if we remembered what happened before us, we wouldn't repeat the same mistakes, that whole thing about history, but everyone's forgotten history kind of deal. My point with all of this, my goodness, see, this is why I'm here, it's because I rant. And let me tell you, whether that was interesting to you or not, we talked. All right, so with that being said, I almost feel like God is interested in lineages as opposed to individual people. And that sounds crazy to an American. But again, it's because we're so individualistic, right? We care so much about us. We're egocentric. When I say us, I mean me, you, this person, all individually, right? But if we imagine that, in Revelations, when he says all tongues will bow and all knees shall bow, or sorry, what? All knees shall confess, or what? All knees shall bow, all tongues will confess that, Christ is Lord, and da. It can be, right? It can be. Every single human being that ever existed on their knees acknowledging the Lord, or every lineage, because that would also imply every tribe, nation, and tongue, And so I think that's like a reconciliation of your timeline, of your eternal timeline, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that's how it works. I don't know. Again, I don't know if there's Bible for it. There's inklings of things that I remember reading. I couldn't tell you where it is. I couldn't tell you anything. But there are just things that I was like, this might mean something like this. And there's that. So I don't know. Again, that's an idea. That's if it ain't theological fact, it's a good book. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of where I'm at with that. So I don't hold that I wouldn't teach it. I wouldn't say that it's true. It's just an idea. You know, just like, hey, this is a solution to problems. Philosophically or whatever the case is, I don't know. I just like solving problems. I think that solves a few problems. Problems of, it's almost like, it is almost universalism, but it's not like individual universalism. It's like the redemption of every family line then comes to Christ. What would that look like then? I mean, maybe it comes, like, what does heaven look like then? Like, is there only 50 people because there's 50, family lines? Like, if you go all the way back or whatever. I don't know. Maybe, you not that you share a conscious, but, like, you're a part of, like, we're just a reiteration of a consciousness that has flown from our family line. But then you say, like, okay, well, when you have multiple kids, like, is that split personality disorder? And, I don't know. Yeah. It breaks down. I'm not tripping. All right, next. So this one, a little more Bible, but again, equally as, like, take it with a grain of salt, throw it away if you're like, nah, I don't know about that. But it's the idea that God intentionally allows us to sin from the background of, if we suppose that God orchestrates, the good and the bad, which I think there's plenty of evidence to biblically and just historic, like in life, to understand that, he curates the good and bad in every individual's life and this and that. That would mean that he allows us to sin for our protection. And you're like, what? Yeah, if all things are good to those who love Christ, then even the sin that we commit is good. And you're like, what is that? You're going crazy. And the idea is like, I think if we spend too much time if we go too far, too long without sinning, we end up becoming self-righteous, forgetting what it is to be a lowly human and this and that. And I think we also forget that we are dependent on Christ, And so I think, like, the people who don't have that in their life, that don't need that in their life, are people who, like, 110% understand they're completely dependent on Christ, and they're always depending on God's grace. His grace and mercy is enough, and they have that, like, lowliness, that humility every day, that desperation of, like, I'm not enough. And I think those people are the ones that have figured that out. I think for us mortals, no, but for the most of us, we get too haughty, we get too proud when we stand too strong. And I think it's good that we get knocked down, and kind of remember, like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm just human. So yeah, that's an iffy one for sure, because what I'm claiming, I'm not just claiming, when it happens it's a good thing because it leads to good things. I'm saying that it's almost like, it's like God pushing you down, like, to remind you, like, hey, you still suck at walking, which is like a terrible analogy of tough love. But because I think most people would kind of agree it's more like, hey, don't touch the fire, and then we touch the fire, as opposed to him like kind of bumping you and you're like, catch yourself touching the fire, and it's like, what are you doing? And he's like, just reminding you, it hurts. Oh man, yeah, that you could throw that one away too. Again, I would never teach this. I would never do anything about it. It's just an idea that I ponder sometimes when things are going too good, and then I have a fit of rage. I have, like, it's like a random, like, why am I put in this position? Like, how did this even happen? Kind of deal. That's usually what I think and feel like right after. I'm like, I was doing so good. What's going on? You know? Yeah. I mean, maybe poorly I've rationalized it that way, but it's just like, it feels like it doesn't come from me. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, like it's just not congruent to the timeline that I'm in. Like it's just this one-off weird thing that happens, and I'm like, now I feel bad and I feel disconnected. And then I'm like, wait, it's not my righteousness. It's not my holiness. You know, I wear the clothes of righteousness. I wear the clothes of holiness. It's not me, you know? And so at least to me, whenever that happens and I pray and pray and pray, that's kind of like the reconciliation I have to have is like, oh yeah, I'm human, you know? Cause I do get high and mighty. That's like for a fact. I've burned a lot of bridges. There's a lot of my friends don't like to get too deep with me for that reason. I understand it. I am a jerk. I can be. And no, yeah, I am. And that's why I think God is like, hey, you know, wake up. Remember who you are, buddy. Like, yeah, I'm giving you, you know, I mean, to me, it's like, you know, Romans 1 Corinthians 13. It's that idea, like, you can know all of the mysteries of the world, but if you're not loving, if you don't speak it in love, you're doing nothing, you know? And to further that example, it's like, I love this new analogy. I don't know how new it is, but it's becoming popular again. This idea of, like, if I give you a gift, if I give you $100 bill, but it's like wrapped in toilet paper, all crushed up, and like, you know, there's stains on it. And you're like, and I give it to you, you're like, oh, what the heck? I'm like, why are you not going to take this? Why are you not going to take this? And you're like, it's gross. And then, you know, I like unravel it and and it's $100 bill. And I'm like, bro, I've been trying to give you this. You're like, huh? Like, what the heck? You know, it's the same thing. You can have treasure that you're trying to give, but if you give it in a poor way, if the deliverance is awful, then they're not going to take it, no matter how good the treasure is. And you know what's in the treasure. They don't see the treasure yet. You know what I mean? And that's something I will always work on. I know I've talked about this plenty I just get frustrated with stubbornness. I get frustrated with people who are adamant about being wrong. And like, I have to understand that they think they're right. And that's like, put that in your head. Like they are, well, and this is my problem. We say they are rational beings. Some people don't use rationale. Like, they use their own rationale. They don't use logic, if that makes sense. Like, they're not thinking math. They're thinking guts. They're thinking feelings. You know, it's like, it's something in them. They can't describe, this is a good thing. Why? I don't know. I feel it. How do you talk to someone like that? You know what I mean? How can you, like, lead them? I'm trying to learn and grow in that. And then emotional, yeah, it's just, you know, some pathos. Give them some pathos. You know what I mean? You just gotta pull on their heartstrings and they'll understand. Man, let me see, any other heresies? That's all I can really think about. Those four things. Hopefully I'm not a heretic. And maybe I'm jumping the gun on this. I watch a lot of people and they have a specific language that's so like on the edge, and they might be giving good fruit, but dang, man, it's like I remember this guy that got popular on TikTok, and he might know Bible, I'm not sure, but I definitely know his attitude just is gross. It is disgusting. And this guy is doing his thing, you know. He's got, let's say, you know, 200,000 followers, you know, he's making his money, whatever. But he's such a jerk. And it's like, I don't know why anyone listens to. I mean, like, like the thing is like I see a lot of these people. That's one example. The other example is like actually being theologically sketchy. Maybe you're a good person, but you're theologically sketchy, or your theology is good, but your personality is sketchy, and it's like, what the heck? And I see these people, and I think the first thought I think really is when I see their numbers, I'm like, you just have a crowd of you have a huge crowd of immature Christians that agree, that push, that egg on whatever you're saying, however you're saying it, right? And that is bad for the person because they don't grow. And my concern is that I go off the deep end in that same way. And not very heretical or anything, but I am getting more into that spiritual stuff, and not necessarily like I'm not a seer or anything like that. Whatever that might entail, mean, whatever. Because I am super skeptical. Everything I hold with a grain of salt. I just can't come to accept, because they're charlatans, that pretend, and because of that, it's like who can I trust and kind of deal, and I can't, I don't even trust myself. I say this all the time. Yeah, the way I described my ideas, I don't even believe them. You know what I mean? Like I say them out loud. I'm like, this kind of makes sense, but I'm really good at making things make sense. So I'm not going to trust it, so it's in my back pocket. I just needed to get it out there, because it's like, I wasn't throwing up or anything. I was just, for the people who are just listening, it's just like, it needs to come out in the way that, I guess I am a creative, and this is maybe the most boring way to be a creative. No, I mean, not necessarily. I don't mean talking and content creating. I mean, I don't know. Greeks, this was it, Aristotle was the guy. He was the creative. So yeah, maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, so that's that. Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you so much for going on this journey with me. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, follow, and remember, there is more to life, and that is good news. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.